Minecraft has advancements. Those advancements have names, and those names are often puns, like a complete cat-a-log. And as you may know, puns rarely translate well into other languages, except that one because cat and catalog are both loans from Latin. But there are other ones too. The languages I've selected are Russian, German, Spanish, Japanese, and Korean, at which point I ran out of time and realized I didn't know anything about those languages. I have to imagine someone in the comments will correct me anyway, but part of my job is to be wrong. Starting with hot stuff. Actually, starting with acquire hardware, because a lot of languages found that name boring. The Russian version is the equivalent of strike while the iron is hot, the German is metallurgy, the Spanish is Iron Age, and Korean is overflowing iron. Japanese, frankly, peed me off. You'll see why. Anyway, suit up is usually some variation of get dressed, except Russian uses dress code. So back to hot stuff. Hot and popular being synonymous isn't exactly rare, and Russian and Japanese just use hot stuff, but Korean uses hot topic. In German, they use some like it hot, and in Spanish, it's things are heating up. I'm gonna quit the color coding, it's taking way too long. Isn't it iron pick doesn't even work as a pun in English, so it's not too much pressure to perform. Russian uses a pickaxe rusts without use, which is their equivalent of use it or lose it. Spanish uses isn't it ironic, which actually does work for them. Japanese is literally translated, and so it basically uses it is an iron pick, right? Korean is grow up, literally get some maturity, with maturity homophonic to iron. German is too much iron in the bloodstream. I'm not sure if that's a play on some famous quote or something. It seems like it's just a phrase. Not today, thank you is preserved in German, Japanese, and Spanish, but Korean uses something less literal, something like it's not happening. Similarly, Russian uses don't hold your breath. Ice Bucket Challenge is translated as two elements in Russian and as cool head in Spanish. We need to go deeper. In Russian is fiery depths, which may have something to do with the similarity between depths and nether. Spanish uses plus ultra, more beyond, which is also the motto of Spain. Very cool. Enchanter in Spanish is the sorcerer's apprentice, and it's also the only one to make a pun on zombie biology, with all the other languages using zombie doctor, which I think is a missed opportunity. I Spy is a play on the game I Spy, but it also references the Eye of Ender being a spy leading you to the portal. Spanish and Japanese only keep the spy meaning, and Korean only keeps the game meaning, swapping it out for 20 questions. German swaps it out for the flying eye, which is their title for Blue Thunder. Russian uses the unsleeping eye, which is a short story about surveillance states. Return to Sender is undelivered love letter in Korean, which I'm almost certain is a pun, but I don't get it. Those were the days is generally some form of reminiscing about the past, except Russian, which is Naf Naf doesn't live here anymore, which is like a pig-type cartoon character. You'll soon learn Russian, clearly had a lot more thought put into it than the others. Hidden in the depths is debris of the past in Russian. A terrible fortress is hulls of fear. Subspace bubble is mole hole. It's also black hole in Spanish, and in Korean it's the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. A more literal translation might be 250 miles is still just steps. Russian gave up on Who is Cutting Onions and went with the less inspired Obsidian Tears. Oh Shiny is Branzulietka, which is like some sort of jewelry originally from Poland. Spanish is My Precious. This boat has legs is swapped out to You Carry Me Across the Lava in Russian. This is a reference to You Carry Me Across the Field, which is a lyric from a song about a horse. Korean uses the more succinct bipedal boat. Uneasy Alliance is War of the Worlds in Russian. World and peace are notably the same word, but that's just something with the expression itself. In Korean, I believe it's literally Not Easy Alliance. War Pigs in Russian is What was yours is now mine, which is an expression. It's not changed in any other language, but the German Kampfschweine does go hard. Cover Me in Debris is Ladnia Despiechi in Russian, meaning awesome armor. It's a play on Latnia Despiechi, which means plate armor. Spooky Scary Skeleton is Alas Poor Yorick in Russian, Don't Lose Your Head in German, and By a Head in Spanish, which is also a song. Japanese and Korean translate it directly, despite not having the original song. Into Fire is Playing with Fire in Spanish and German, and it's the same in Korean, though it shares the name of a film. Not Quite 9 Lives is preserved in Japanese. The meaning is preserved in Spanish and German, though they say cats only have 7 lives. The Korean is Life Recharge, and the Russian is Kashay's Casket. Kashay the Deathless is a Russian stock character who removed his ability to die and hid it in a box. Hot tourist destinations is mostly fine, though Russian needed to change it to last minute tour, literally burning tour. Withering heights is literally withered highs in German and Korean, and in Japanese they can actually translate the pun directly using the word ara, that means like a barren wasteland. Russian uses Chudayuda, a three-headed dragon from folklore, and Spanish is Dr. Witherstein, which needs no translation. Bring home the beacon is beacon of light in Japanese, let there be light in Spanish, establishing a connection in Korean, desired light in Russian, which is a reference to a sailor's most desired light is the one from his home beacon. And German is shine a light on the neighbors for some reason. Beaconator, a reference to the Wendy's sandwich, is somehow translated into Spanish, Korean, and Japanese. The German is lighthouse keeper, and the Russian is Mayakovsky, a Russian poet who shares the first four letters of his name with the word for beacon, perhaps comparable to Sir Francis Bacon. How did we get here in Russian is the impossible is possible. Remote getaway is the perfect escape, the same as in Spanish. The end, again, is déjà vu in Russian, and that wasn't the end in Korean. You need a mint always references bad breath, though Russian, Japanese, and Spanish are more direct, and Korean uses brushing your teeth. The city at the end of the game in Russian is Make Yourself at Home, Traveler, the name of a song. Sky's the limit is translated to Where are your wings in Russian. Another song lyric, More lies beyond the horizon in German, also lyrics, To infinity and beyond in Spanish, and Nothing is impossible in Korean. Stay hydrated is hospitality in Russian. Keep in mind that this is the same as the word for gassed. It's cognate with guest. Be our guest is unfortunately just snack time in Russian, though it is sei unser Gast in German with a buzzing noise. Spanish is also a pun I couldn't figure out. Japanese is secret dinner party, and Korean is the beehive is my home. The Parrots and the Bats is romantic dinner in Russian, lovebirds in Spanish, and stork's gift in Japanese. Korean uses the more blunt, how are babies made? You've Got a Friend in Me is called Just Like That in Russian, which is a movie about friendship. Whatever floats your goat is just There's the Goat in Japanese and Korean, but German calls it No Goat, No Gain. It rhymes in German. Spanish is the goat tend towards the ocean. A play on the Spanish, a goat tends towards the mountains, which means like a leopard can't change its spots. Russian uses wolf, goat, cabbage, which is a reference to the famous river crossing puzzle. Best Friends Forever is called Man's Best Friend in Russian. Glow and Behold is usually a play on brilliant, as in shedding light and also being intelligent. The Russian one is reading as light, a play on learning as light, a proverb. Fishy Business is On the Hook, a Russian comedy film. A Sticky Situation in Spanish, which is literally a scaly situation. Korean is like Jung Taegong's Fishing Time, which I don't entirely get, but he does seem to be a fisherman. Total Bee Location is striped cargo in Russian and bee wandering in German, which is apparently an actual process of nomadic apiary. Japanese is careful relocation with the kanji for honey slipped in. The Spanish is let's get out of here with be added to get out. The Korean is I'll take care of each and every piece, with piece being homonymic to be. Bucket is Honored Passenger in Russian, a poem by Mikhalkov, and In the Bucket in German, a synonym for busted. Smells interesting is roughly The Legend of the Sniffersaurus in Russian, which is also maybe a movie reference. A Seedy Place is Field of Wonders, a Russian game show. Hobby Gardener in German, and They Grow Up So Fast in Spanish. 2x2 is Happy Farmer, which is like the Russian version of Farmville, and the Spanish is De dos en dos, wah, which is the Spanish version of Baby Shark. Birthday song is Only Once a Year in Russian. Like I mentioned, a complete catalog works in most languages except Japanese, Cat Encyclopedia, and Korean, The Butler Himself, which is also a playful jab name for cat owners. Tactical fishing is fishing trick in Russian, and use gums instead of teeth in Korean. An idiom for be careful. When the squad hops into town is Who is Marching in a Friendly Row, a Russian marching song, and The Three Musketeers in Spanish. Little sniffs is The nose is not mature enough in Russian, which is a saying for someone who's young and immature. In German, it's Snifferkurs, which is like a term for a little taste of something to see if you like it. A balanced diet is Robin Bobin, which is like a fat guy from Russian kids' books. Serious dedication is Farmer by Passion, a compliment in German. Nice shot, an ironic compliment in Russian. And bad habits, an insult in Spanish. The Cutest Predator is My Sweet and Tender Beast, a Russian film. By Our Powers Combined is Crossroad of Seven Swamps, a reference to the song Crossroad of Seven Forests. exists. Planting the past is paleobotany. The healing power of friendship is magic. The whole pack is barbaskinli, a TV show about dogs. Korean is just the wolf isn't lonely, and Spanish actually does one better with a pun to the effect of the total package. Sheer brilliance actually does translate into Korean because the word for scissors sounds like truly. In Japan, it's something like a sharp idea, and German is schnippschnapp. Spanish uses stylist, and Russian is both the sheep are fed and the wolves are safe, which is a reversal of the saying about compromise. Heart transplant works fine, but Russian has while dragging the heart, which is an idiom similar to with heavy heart. Country load, take me home doesn't translate into any language. German uses do you know where the lodestones are, which is kind of a play on do you know how many stars there are. Russian uses guiding stone, which is maybe something about pathstone, and Spanish and Korean go directly with lodestone, take me home. Japanese is the first line of a different country song, so it preserves the idea, but not the pun. The power of books is knowledge is power in Russian and Spanish, which really should be in English. German is suspense in every chapter, with the word for suspense and voltage being the same. What a deal in Russian is without leaving the cash register, which means something like right now. Crafting a new look in Korean is trendsetter, and in Russian it's чистовалития, a fresh style, which is a play on чистого листа, a TV show that means from a clean slate. Sticky situation in Russian is slow fall, notably honey is jammed in the word slow. In Spanish, it's banzai, which kind of works in English. Korean is surrender to sweetness. Surge protector is where lightning strikes twice in Russian, which doesn't really make sense, but whatever. Japanese is close call, and Korean is stop the lightning. Respecting the remnants is fragments of history in Russian. This belongs in a museum in Spanish, and respect your elders in German. Sneak 100 is based on an English meme that is still awkwardly translated into Spanish, German, and Japanese. Korean uses Secretly Greatly, which is a comedy film about spies. The Russian name of that achievement is Mysh Kradyotsia. The best way I can translate the typos is the mouse. It is hiding. From a similar meme. See what I mean about how the Russian translation is so much better? Isn't it skewt is translated as is it a skewt in Japanese and Korean, and isn't it cute in German? Russian is a gentle defenseless beast, reference to the same film as The Cutest Predator. Spanish is disarmadillo, a pun that would also work fine in English and would be better than isn't it skewt. Minecraft Trials Edition works because a test run is the same thing as a test chamber, though in Spanish it is a challenge chamber, so they went with challenge accepted. And Korean is life is a series of trials. Monsters Hunted is Zwerboy, which is either St. John's Wort or a story about the colonization of America. German is Master Hunter, notably Meisterjäger. Korean is Monster Encyclopedia. Spanish is No Mercy. Take aim in Spanish is Diana, the goddess of the hunt. Postmortal in Russian is light at the end of the tunnel. Mob kebab is just kebab in Spanish, and in German it's 5-on-1 skewer. Hired help is 3 laws of robotics in Russian. First law of robotics in Germany. Hitman in Spanish, and maid in Japanese. Careful restoration is Renaissance. Crafters crafting crafters is how far has progress come. Under Lock and Key is The Golden Key, a Tolstoy novel. I'm not sure what's up with Old Betsy, but it's just crossbow in Russian. I have the strap secured in German, broken arrow in Korean, and tomboy in Japanese. Whatever. A throwaway joke is to end up in a pickle in Russian. Notably, the word for to end up is also used for hit or strike. Spanish is master stroke. Japanese is a pretentious remark. Pretentious may also be aerial, and Korean is just ready, fire. The Sound of Music, a movie reference, is a kid's cartoon reference in Russian and a song reference in Spanish and German. Very, very frightening is a reference to Bohemian Rhapsody. German Angst und Schrecken is pretty similar. Russian, the May thunder has struck is alright, and flashing east and west in Korean, I believe, is an idiom similar to a wing and a prayer. Lighten up is Aladdin's lamp in Russian, and can someone turn on the lights in Korean? Who needs rockets means riding the wind in Russian, and to leap into the flames in Korean, or maybe into the bad luck. Revolting is Panzerknacker in German, a criminal band from Mickey Mouse. Japanese is just mysterious vault, presumably related to the ominous effect you need to break the bigger vaults. The Russian is, and the vault did not open easily. This is a reference to the ending of a Krylov story where a guy spends forever trying to break open a vault, and then it just opens on its own. Blowback is headwind in Japanese and German. Russian uses don't pout, pout being the reflexive of to blow. Spanish is go to hell, literally go ride the wind. Over overkill in German is Grand Master of War, and Korean uses if a hammer falls from the sky, which it doesn't seem like that's an idiom, but whatever. Russian is Есть пробитие, which means there is a breakthrough. This is also a Russian meme. It's really something. So, would you believe that this video was supposed to include mobs and enchantments too? Maybe I'll do that next week, or Silurian paleonomenclature. Tell me what you want to see.